A new film I watched this weekend was Heretic, written and directed by the creators of A Quiet Place. It's the story of two young Mormon missionaries out and about in a area in Montana who are preaching to those who have expressed an interest in joining the Mormon faith. They visit the house of a man named Mr. Reed, an Englishman who shows surprising level of detailed knowledge about the background of Joseph Smith and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and engages them in philosophical and theological conversation. However, it turns out that he is not what he seems, because having claimed that his wife is at home and baking a blueberry pie in the kitchen, they see that the candle he has left in the middle of the coffee table is blueberry pie scented, that he mentions that the walls and ceiling of the house are reinforced with metal, that the front door locks and has no seeming way to unlock it, and that he has a plan to put them through an ordeal that will test their faith and their thinking about the nature of religion, faith itself, and what constitutes a miracle. Um, it's an awkward film to talk about because to give it any proper criticism risks spoiling it, and a lot of it is very good. It's extremely well directed. It's extremely thoroughly written. There's a lot of very lengthy dialogue scenes that pick apart the nature of religion and the nature of iterations of religion, how different religions are built on previous existing faiths. Um, he uses the character of Mr. Reed uses the game Monopoly as an example. That the original version of Monopoly was in fact plagiarized from a pre-existing game called the Landlord's Game, and so in the same way that Christianity grew out of previous faiths and has given birth to successive ones. Um, it's all very well researched, well written, and brilliantly delivered by Hugh Grant, who is not the obvious person to cast in a horror movie like this, and yet playing someone who is intellectually rigorous and superficially very charming is perfect casting. He's absolutely terrific in the film. As the ordeal goes on and we get into the inevitable dingy basement and weird, creepy stuff, the tone is maintained, and Grant manages to consistently balance the horror of what the character's doing with the the tone of an affable, cool college professor giving a private tutorial to interested students. It's a great balancing act, and it's a great performance. I I just wish that later revelations about the film had been a bit more interesting, a bit more beyond things that any uh, insightful or questioning person would have realized when they were in their 20s. In America, I can imagine this is a bit more near the knuckle, and I can imagine the film striking quite a difficult chord over there because it's effectively a lot of the time saying religion is a sham, it's a means of controlling people, and this has existed over and over again for thousands of years. Um, and the film, despite the faith of the two young women, it never really refutes that. Um, I think that's quite challenging, but at the same time, it's not. It, I like to see films that show me something I haven't seen before, or tell me something I didn't know, and this wasn't telling me anything I didn't already know. But it was doing it in a way that was engaging, that was well written, well directed, very tense all the way through, brilliantly designed. The production design of the house is extraordinary. Hugh Grant is excellent, and the two young women, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, are also both excellent. There are some odd digressions. There are a few scenes outside the house. Topher Grace has a really effectively a cameo role as a church elder who appears briefly in a few scenes, and they feel completely redundant other than to allow plot mechanics to happen elsewhere. And I felt that another draft of the script could just smooth that over and keep everything confined to the house. But it's it's a lot better than it could be. It's a lot more challenging, I think, than most studio horror fare. And I think on that score, it should be applauded for trying to do something different, trying to really push intellectually what studio horror movies can be. And it does have that great central performance by Hugh Grant. It's one of the better films this year. I just wish that it could have been better still.